Tonight we're going to be counting Yesod Shebagvura. And the whole week we're talking about Gvura, about the strength that we have in our body, in our soul. Yesterday we were talking about the hidden strength that needs to be revealed and come out to the surface. Yesod Shebagvura. Last week we talked about Yesod, that Yesod is about creating connections, or what is called in Lashon Kodesh, Kritat Brit, that I go into a covenant with somebody. In our generation, it's not so common that people go into covenants. People might go into an agreement. But the covenant that we are familiar with is when people get married. This in Hebrew, in Lashon Kodesh, it's called Kritat Brit Nisuim. It's a covenant of marriage, that we love each other, we want to spend the rest of our life together, but without this covenant, the love will not sustain. Maybe we will love each other forever, but it's not going to create a relationship. The fact that we do a covenant, or we come into Brit Nisuim, we get married, then it has the ability, last week we talked about it, that is the hook, that hooks the two souls together. Now there are many types of Britot, or kretot, that we go between one person to another. You can look at it also in a person does a business deal, or you go and you buy a building, there's a transaction. This is all types of brit that I get in some type of an agreement. But nevertheless, since the idea of a brit is something new, we didn't come down to this world already with these britot. It was established later on. So since it's not new, since it's new, what's called in Hebrew a chidush, the way you see it is souls didn't come down here connected to the world. It's actually the other way around. Souls come down here to the world separated, and then they get connected. So since it's something new, then we have to constantly be in a motion that we do what's called a kritat brit, that I go into a covenant with another person. Now, bederech hateva, based on nature, or how nature works, in any time that I will come to some type of a connection with another person, right away there's going to be what's called a machsom, a barrier, something that will stop me from getting connected to the next person. Whether it's marriage, whether it's business, there's always going to be something natural that it's not going to go so smooth. Most people, when they are engaged, when they're dating, it's not smooth. It's not so obvious that that's the person that I want to marry. Some people are lucky. They go on a date, they say, that's the person, no question here. But even if that case, there's still going to be all sorts of barriers or machsomim that will stop them. The family will get involved. Now this is going to happen, that's going to arouse. There's always going to be some type of a machsom, or you can call it a speed bump, that you have to slow down, go on it very cautiously, and you have to go over it. Now this is just, I'm talking in marriage, can be in anything. You want to buy a property now, you get into a business transaction, whatever it is. Anytime two parties are going to come together in a brit, there's going to be a machsom. There's going to be some type of a challenge, there's some type of a barrier. In order for me to communicate with the next individual, then I have to break this machsom. I have to break this barrier. Now, we're going to take now this connection between two souls, between two people, not necessarily in marriage or business. Sometimes it's just communicating with another person. We hear you have a community. Not everybody loves each other in the community. Sometimes it can be the same shul, and the person on the other cross of the room, they don't like each other. They don't get along for whatever reason. And then in any type of connection between me and another person, then we want to make what's called a kesher, connection. There's always going to be some type of a barrier. So don't only focus on necessarily the covenant of marriage or something big. Even me just communicating with another person. In order for me to break this barrier, both in the spiritual and the physical, because sometimes these barriers are physical, and sometimes the barriers will be spiritual. In order for me to break this type of barrier, then you need gvura. You need strength. The yesod, that's the hook. Yesod will be translated to, even though yesod is a foundation, But the Kabbalistic approach to Yesod is Brit. If you follow the order of the Sfirot, now especially that we're counting the Sfirot, then the Patach Eliyahu, the Tikkunei HaZohar, explains how the Sfirot are in a shape of a human. And of course you have the head, which will be the Mochin, Chochma, Bina, and Dat. And on top of that will be a crown, Keter. But then you have Chesed, what it says in the Patach Eliyahu, Chesed is the right hand, Gvura is the left hand, Tiferet is the body, Netzach is the right leg. Yeah, but I'm talking about the Patach Eliyahu is saying. Patach Eliyahu says that the Tiferet is the body. You're right, it's the heart, but I'm now just quoting the Zohar, the Tikkunei HaZohar. But nevertheless, the right leg is Netzach, left leg is Hod, and then Yesod is the Brit Kodesh, is where for the male organ, and for the woman is the womb. So, Kabbalistic angle or approach for Yesod is the Brit, is the covenant. So, nevertheless, in order to come to any type of a connection with anybody, this will be compared to the Brit, to the connection. But in order for me to go over some type of a barrier, spiritual, emotional, or physical, then I need Gvura. And the Gvura is the strength. So, Yesod will be what is called in Hebrew a koach le'ashpia, the power to have an effect, to influence. And in order for me to come into any type of Brit, then I need Gvura for that. Then I need strength. Even if I'm in love with my future wife and everything looks good, still need strength. A lot of people, they're afraid to get into a covenant of marriage. They're afraid to get into relationships. Maybe they're afraid to get hurt. They're afraid it's not going to work. They're afraid of many things. So you need a lot of Gvura here. So Yesod, that's the hook, that's the power that will allow me to get into the covenant. What is called in Hebrew, hakoach le'ashpia, the power that will have an effect. You have power that will not do anything. Sometimes too much power will destroy. Yesod is the power that will actually bring something into effect. Now when you connect the two, Yesod shebagvura, this will be the power to remove any type of obstacles in your life. So not only today that you want to focus on it, but this is the midah that will allow me in my life to bring two opposites together, to overpower obstacles in my life. And like I said, in order to move an obstacle, you don't break the obstacle, you don't break the barrier. This is a barbaric way to use it. You rather jump over it. So a more I use the word barbaric. Don't necessarily take all my words and get hooked on what I'm saying. I'm saying barbaric because this is not the way we need to approach things. There's a block in my life. There's a barrier. There's some type of obstacle. You don't go in force to break it. Rather, you jump over it. It's called ledaleg. You go over it. That's why I called it in the beginning speed bump. So in many cases, what stops us from having any type of relationship is a gap. And we talked about it last week. If there's a gap between me and you, there's not going to be a good relationship. What is the Yesod shebagvura? Is the power that will allow me to jump over, so to say, and ledaleg al ha'pa'ar, to jump over the gap. Then I connect two things together. Practically, we want to use something practical to apply it. Then I have to recognize in my relationships, whether it's my wife, my parents, my neighbors, whatever it is, I have to recognize these blocks, these mahsumim, these barriers in the relationship. And everybody has it in all relationships. I don't believe that everybody has perfect relationships with any individual in their life. You might have a good relationship with one individual and then 5 bad relationships. And it doesn't mean that something wrong with the relationship. It just means that this is where you need to work on yourself. So by default, Hashem made you have a relationship with those individuals. Because if not, how would you work on yourself? If I need to work on my forbearance, my patience, my powers or the thoughts of judgmental, whatever way, then I need the right person to be the resistance. If I told you that many times. If I go to a gym now, and I want to work out, but I just sit like this on the bench and I don't do anything, then what would be the workout? I can sit in the most fanciest gym, but it has to be resistance. The relationships that I'm in, these are the powers of resistance. So I need to recognize in my relationships, what are these barriers? What are these speed bumps? And now to see, okay, in this specific relationship, this is the michshol, this is the barrier, how do I go over it? So practically saying, let's say just for the sake of the example, my relationship with a certain individual, then that individual, well, doesn't matter what they do, they make me upset. Obviously, the barrier here is kaas, is anger. Then I need to know not to get upset from the actions of this individual, how not to be affected by the actions of this individual. This is how I jump over the michshol, the barrier, and for that I need to apply the yesod shebagvura, to take the strength that will allow me to build a relationship. There's no such a thing that the relationship is bad. It just means the relationship needs to be worked on. And like I said before, it can't be that all your relationships with your parents, with your kids, with your neighbors, with your spouse, that it will be smooth and good. It doesn't make even sense. Lehefech, on the contrary, by the relationship, I can see exactly what Hashem wants me to work on. With this relationship, I need to work on patience. With this relationship, I need to work on forgiving. In this relationship, I can't be judgmental, and so forth. And you have to recognize in your relationships which relationship is holding which barrier. And now you're saying, okay, how do I jump over this barrier? And how do you use it? You use the strength in your neshama, this gvura, this hidden strength in your neshama, to be able to lay the foundation and take the hook of the yesod and to build stronger relationships, which of course it's very applicable to this week's parasha, because in this week's parasha we learn about a great mitzvah that is called ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love a fellow friend like you love yourself. How do you do that? Is that you apply, how do I bridge the gaps between me and this individual? So needless to say how it's applying even more in our week's parasha. I know for the ones in the diaspora, this is not this week's parasha. In the diaspora, they're reading Achrimot. We're reading Kedushim. But nevertheless, still, it's a good time to apply, because ultimately, this is the foundation of everything, is this unconditional love to another person. And how do I find the way to connect to another person, not to destroy bridges? How do I build bridges? And for that, we need to refine the sfira of Yesod Shebegvura. And Bezrat Hashem should be successful in this task.